2.
Hi, I'm Leslie M., the author of Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. And the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten is why not you?
Why not you? Holy crap, Leslie. It is about time that we talk about this book.
I know,
I'm
right?
so excited, right? This book is amazing and glorious. Congratulations on writing it. And thank you for writing it. And thank you for being here, my friend. It's great to see you.
This is such a treat. There's like any excuse to hang out with Phil. That's a good day in my books.
Yes.
Any day
Yes.
to hang out with you. I'm down. I'm ready for it.
Thank you. Well, back at you, back at you. And now we have something to talk about with your book. Not that we didn't, but now this is something to share. And what I think is awesome about your book is that you dispel the bullshit of fake it until you make it. So tell us why that's such bad advice and why we need swagger instead.
Okay, so the whole fake it till you make it paradigm is the worst thing you could ever do to yourself. Because as soon as you start to pretend to be something that you're not, that you know stuff that you don't, that you're all that and fancier than you are, it traps you and stops you from being able to ask people for help. Because you're supposed to know it all. You're supposed to have it all in check. You're supposed to know everything. So if you pretend to know more than you don't, you limit your ability to learn what you need in order to develop the confidence that you're trying to fake it, that you're trying to fake in the first place. Because here is the thing. Confidence is not something that the pixies come and sprinkle upon you at birth. Who wants to be confident? Someone step forward, not so fast, little Phil, you step back. Doesn't work like that. Confidence, true confidence can only come from competence. So if you are good at what you do and you've experienced it over and over and over again, and you have that rock solid sense like, I got this, I know what I'm talking about, I'm okay here, that's what's going to give you confidence. Now, the thing that messes with you is every time you go out of your comfort zone, every time you try and do something new and different, your confidence is going to get shaken because you don't yet have the competence to support the confidence. So instead, what we want to do is go to self-belief, because self-belief does not rely on competence. Self-belief is that feeling, that deep set feeling that you have that says, no matter whether I jump off the cliff or not, I am not going to die. I mean, I might hit a few branches on the way down. I could bounce, I could fly, I could get to a different level, but I'm not going to die. So my advice is to forget the fake it till you make it, own where you are in terms of your competence, always look to growing that and deepening that, and accept the confidence for where you have and what you're doing right now. Because the confidence for the next level will come when you've done enough to merit the confidence. It's pretty simple.
Pretty simple, and yet pretty often not done, which I really
Yes.
dig. I mean, that's
Yes.
the whole book, and that's the big thesis of your book. And I really dig that. I think that's super important. And one of the things that I think is really important that you say in the book is that you say you are not your history. You are the stories you tell yourself. And I think that's so important. That's not about faking it, but it's about talking about a time when you were successful in a similar situation, maybe similar, or in a situation that maybe you were completely unsimilar, but yet you know that not only you're not going to die, but I would say you have a good chance of success. So talk about that, Leslie. Why do more of us not believe that it is what we tell ourselves and not just and that it is our history?
Well, that story thing works both ways, because if historically we've had bad stuff happen. People have said bad things about us. I find that very often for their best intentions, it can be our very family that can be the biggest swagger suckers. It's what you heard when you were a little kid and what filtered into your brain and the message that you got over and over again. And you believe that that's your truth. that's your story, that's your lot in life, and I'm just never going to be someone who can achieve things, or I'm just not that smart, or I'm just not that capable, or I'm just not that ambitious, or all of the things that you may have heard. And the thing is that if you continue to embrace that story and tell it to yourself, then it kind of becomes true because you believe it. But if you say, wait a second, that's not true of me anymore. That's not true of me now. I've moved away from that stigma, that issue, that crisis, those limitations, whatever it might have been that held you back or that defined you when you were young. You don't have to keep telling yourself that story now. This is a choice that you can make. And if you tell yourself, actually, you know what? I'm pretty great. I think I can do this. Yeah, I've worked pretty hard. I deserve this. I've earned it. All of those stories, those are all choices that you can tell yourself. So I want people to listen to the story that they keep telling themselves and go, what, time out. Is this story actually working for me? Because I'm choosing to tell it to myself, nobody else. I'm the only one who's telling this bullshit narrative. It's time to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's time to stop now. So, with that, you offer us a nice framework that I think is really helpful. And I found this, I kept referring back to this as I'm taking notes in the book. And that is, you say, today I am, which is
Ah,
very different,
yeah.
right? That's really different. And then you follow that with in the future, which you think about the now and then the next. So talk to us
Mhm.
about how that helps us and give us a story of the like maybe the young lady in the book or perhaps someone else who's used today I am to be really powerful.
Well, the process of that is to examine kind of the story that was told to you in the past. And when I do this exercise in workshops, it's fascinating, because I say to people without any preamble, without any explanation, I just want you to fill in this sentence. In the past, I was always told that I was. Now, it could be a positive thing. It could be something you were celebrated for, but I'm telling you, just about every single time, people insert something negative into that space. So in the past, I was told that I was too loud, or I was not smart enough, or the color of my skin was not the right cast of skin, or right. And that kind of tells us where that self perception is rooted. And then I say, okay, now let's move on to the next part of the exercise, which is today people tell me that I'm, and I get them to fill it in. And inevitably, it's something positive. It's something that celebrates what their swagger really is, that thing that is unique and special about them. And then we try and track it back to the past statement to say, okay, is this something that you have sort of used to your advantage? Like, I'll give you my example. In the past, I was always told that I was too much. Leslie, you're too much. You're too loud. You're too big. You're too over the top, too much. And even though that was meant to be helpful to me when I was little, what happened is I took it on as being that I was too much for the world, that I should be dialing myself down and I should be, keeping quiet and all of these things that were really quite impossible for me. Well, today, people tell me that I'm incredibly passionate and driven. Okay, so you see how those things connect? I've taken something that stigmatized me then and I've turned it in and embraced it as my superpower. It's one of the things that is my great differentiator. And then we say, okay, now let's move from here, the present, and let's talk about the future. In the future, I want to be known as or for insert answer here. And for me, that sentence goes, in the future, I want to be known as someone who had the power to unleash human potential. Now, you can't do that without being too much. You can't do that without being passionate and driven. So you start to see the through line of your life, or how you've compensated or changed to adjust, but how you are staying true to who you really are and drawing it through the past, the present, and the future.
Wow. Wow. That's
There's some
so
there's some
strong.
deep shit. There's some deep
Yeah,
shit.
it is. Yeah, it is, right? Well, and it's real shit, which is really awesome. And for those that are watching and listening and thinking, well, who the hell is Leslie M? So let me tell you a little bit more about Leslie, because if you haven't experienced her before, if you haven't encountered her before, you need to. She's a former TV host. She's an advertising creative director turned training guru. She spent decades traveling the globe with her award winning company Combustion, worked with executives and teams at Google, Disney, PepsiCo, TD Bank, Uber, and more. And get this, okay? Some people have called her better than therapy. Some have called her a rock star. Some have called her ass kicking, a force of nature. And yes, get this, some people have even called her a witch. I just call her freaking amazing. And we're going to talk more today about swagger because it's so important. And one of the questions, as we see this and we see this word swagger, it's a bold, big word. Leslie, someone asked, and this is something that I thought of, is Will Nelson wants to know, can you have too much of it? Is it possible to have too much swagger?
Well, I think it's important that I give you my definition of swagger, okay? Because normally when we think of swagger, we think of that fronty, fakey, show-offy, peacocky, that fake it till you make it almost arrogant thing. That is not my definition of swagger. My definition is the ability to manifest who you really are and hold on to it in the face of all of that psychological crap that's going to come forward, regardless of situation or environment. So it means that you are one person, the same person, regardless of where you show up, who else is in the room, what's going down in that room, and even how you feel about what's going down in that room. There is only one version of you, and it is the real, authentic version of you. That's swagger. So to answer Will's question, nope, you can never have too much swagger. Not the good swagger. Never.
Yeah, yeah, you can't be too much you, right? That's the thing. And so that
No,
might be too much for some, though, and that's okay because
that's
those
okay.
aren't your people. And I think that's important. I like how you quote our friend Ron Tite here. You talk about authenticity as it relates to swagger, right? You say it's more of, well, how do I adjust my hat? Or in my case, how do I adjust my glasses? More than it is, well, I'm going to go get a new set because I know Leslie loves pick a color here, and I don't have that color, so I better get her. She won't like me. Is that what you're talking about here when we talk
Yeah.
about swagger, Leslie?
Yeah. I mean, it's, look, the key is to first um, sort of excavating who you really are. A lot of people have lost touch with who they really are because we adapt to our environment. We adapt to situations. The world slings arrows at us and we dodge them when we get so used to dodging them that now we're sort of leaning left or leaning right because it's easier to do that than to deal with the ramifications of not being for everybody because it's not necessarily easy. But I think what Ron is saying, or with the quote that Ron gave me in the book and so on, is that when you start to understand who you are and embrace who you are and accept who you are, because it's so much about self-acceptance. In fact, swagger is more about self-acceptance than it is sort of self-assuredness, right? Because once you start to accept yourself, you accept the whole deal, and you're ready to say, hey, I am not for everybody. I am like a mocha choca frappuccino latte, no foam, hold the thing with some sprinkles on top and maybe some chili flakes. A lot of people prefer vanilla. And I am okay with that. I'm not going to hate on them for that. I just ask that they don't hate on me for having all this flavor, And I think what's important to remember too is that we don't want to just run around with our hair on fire going, I must speak my truth and be myself and you people better like it. No, bad idea. Not going to win you any votes there. What is key is to understand that swagger is about the ability to speak your truth and your truth not being held back by all of the blockers that separate us from the world. It's about knowing your intention at all times. What are you trying to accomplish? And if you're trying to be an asshole, it's not going to go well. If you're trying to serve your own ego, it's not going to go well. If you're trying to take other people down, not going to go well. But if you're in service of the collective and if you're in service of the greater good and in service of positivity, That's a different story. So you got to check yourself and ask yourself, is my truth best told now? Should I wait? Should I be framing it in a different way? Is there another opportunity for me to do it? Like, when is my truth going to land the best? I will not be silenced, but when, where, how, with who in the room? Let me get smart about how I do that so that I am in service of that intention. And the final swagger driver is, of course, self-belief. You got to believe that you're freaking worthy of speaking your truth, that you have shit to contribute. If you think about all of the organizations all over the world, you're laughing at me because I'm going now, right? I'm on fire. You think about all the organizations in the world who limit people from expressing their truth and being heard. Think about just the sheer number of ideas that they never get to hear. Just think about that productivity, that potential. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And it's like you know where I'm going with this, because I'm going to ask you, because to me, it seems so obvious that we have to embrace who we are, right? And the sooner we do that, the better off we are. I'll tell you, though, it's not always easy. There's a lot of stuff that gets in our way. I mean, I can tell you even something as simple as my glasses and the fact that I wear bright colored shirts. When I was a VP of IT in an organization many years ago, I had a CIO who frankly tried to put me down all the time. He was like, "You're too loud, you're too obnoxious, you think you know everything, all of this." Well, when he stepped out of the way and I got a new boss, it was like, dude, I need you to step up and be outspoken,
Yep.
stand up for what's right. It's like,
that's a bad boss. That's bad boss. That's got nothing to do with your swagger. That's the whole point.
Right.
Is that boss was an asshole and he understood nothing about human behavior or leadership or how to unleash potential. Dumbass. So good you didn't listen to him, because otherwise you would have limited the organization from having access to your greatness. So fuck him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to share one comment here. We got Lori thinks that you're a great person, Leslie, which
thank you, Lori.
I agree with.
Thank you,
I agree with that one, dear. So that's totally true. But with that, you kind of led me into my next point here, my next piece I want to ask you about, and that is these damn swagger blockers. I mean, come on,
yeah.
they're almost like they're blue blockers that I would wear, that my grandma would wear in her 80s to help her cataracts, but really don't help anybody, really. Yeah, like, no. Go grandma.
No,
so
but
talk to us about swagger blockers and how they.
The struggle is real. The struggle is real, and I believe me, I would never say to anybody that unleashing your swagger is like a walk in the park. It's more like a trek up a mountain. I mean, it's doable, but you got to be prepared to do the work, because we get trapped inside ourselves. Y'all know what I'm talking about, is the real us gets locked in on the inside, and it's protected back there where people can't hurt it, but they also can't get access to it. We can't get out and nothing is getting in. And what I've recognized over time is that there are a series of 5 blockers, all that are interconnected, that separate our swagger from the world. So I'm going to take you from the outside in. You're going to have like a bit visual here, okay? So the first swagger, the one that's closest to the world and furthest from the real us, is persona. Persona is that face that you put on every day when you go to work. It's that belief that you have to walk a certain way and talk a certain way and dress no orange shirt way in order to be accepted by people, in order to be considered okay by the tribe, and in order to have credibility. So every day you put on that heavy coat of false front, and you just spout the business bullshit, and the way that you talk would not be understood or recognized by your friends from 10th grade, and so on and so forth. And you go in not being who you are. So that's the first layer. Now, why do we feel the need for persona? Well, the next layer in is ambition. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about ambition, and I'm all about achieving success and going for your dreams and so on and so forth. But if you're not careful, ambition can be a really serious swagger blocker, because in the business world, especially when we're in our place of ambition, we have a tendency to focus upwards. It's like, what's the next rung of the ladder? Got to get up there, got to ascend. I'm focusing on what everybody up there is doing and where I want to be. And as a result, I'm not spending enough time focusing inwards on myself and checking myself. I'm not spending enough time focusing on my colleagues and my peers who can be my supporters and who I can contribute to. And I sure as hell am not focusing down to my followers, because I cannot be a leader without followers. So when you get trapped in that thing of, I just want to be acknowledged and validated, I just want to have the title in order to tell me that I'm good, it causes you to behave in all kinds of messed up ways. You find yourself doing stuff that you go, who am I right now? So instead of being in your place of ambition, focus on being in your place of excellence. Just doing your great work, having generosity of spirit, being in that place of swagger. And trust me, the people around you and below you will help to lift you to that next level. So you're not going to have to do that big climb by yourself. So now we have ambition, that need for validation and credibility, driving persona, right? So let's take another layer in. The next layer in is insecurity. Insecurity is why we need ambition to validate who we are. Ambition is all the what ifs in our lives. What if I don't say this? What if I do say it? What if someone notices me? What if they don't notice me? What if I speak my truth? What if I don't speak my truth? And it will keep you going. It's a tape in your head that plays like the podcast from hell. Never leaves you alone, because there are no answers. There's only the churn. That's where the imposter syndrome lives. You all know what I'm talking about. If you suffer from the imposter syndrome, it lives right in that blocker. It's the what if people should one day magically stand up and go, you don't know what you're talking about. What if? So now we have this churn of uncertainty, which the brain does not like, reinforcing the need for ambition, which it reinforces the need for persona. Let's go the next layer in. What is the greatest reinforcer of insecurity? It's fear. Because fear is the end of the what if. What if I don't do something? Bad things will happen. What if I do something? Bad things will happen. What if I try to? Bad things could happen. And because it will always go to the absolute worst place in order to prepare your brain for the possibility that things can go wrong, fear is paralyzing. It is the thing that will stop you in your tracks from taking the steps that you need to in order to unleash your swagger. So now we have fear reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. Last ring in, and the one that is closest to us for a really good reason, is pain. Because pain is proof. Pain says, oh, I tried that one time. Did not go well. And I'm not going to be a sucker again. I'm not going there. I'm not doing that. I'm not feeling that. I'm not trying that, because when I did that one time, it hurt like a bitch, and I don't want to put myself through it again. Pain has memory that never quits, and scar tissue is created over time because it's designed to keep you safe and it's designed to keep the world out. So now let's imagine there's you in the middle of all that, trying to get the real you out into the world, driven by truth, intention, and self-belief. And every time your truth tries to navigate through those blockers, it becomes like one of those American Ninja style freaking gauntlets. You have to like punch through pain and swim under, fear, and climb over insecurity, and parasail past ambition, and burst through persona with your truth intact. And even if you manage to do that, what can happen then is, if the world then validates who you are, good job, Phil. That was awesome. Never stop wearing the shirts and being your badass self, and the glasses and everything you are is fantastic. That message now has to come back in through all of the layers in order to fill you up. And it'll get the shit kicked out of each of those layers as it comes back. It starts going, oh, I wonder if what they said they really meant. Maybe they were just trying to look good in front of other people by saying it. Oh shit, I wonder if I just screwed myself. Maybe I shouldn't have said something. Why do I do this every time? Why do I put myself out there? It only goes badly. Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. And then we stay stuck back and forth and back and forth. It's brutal. Torture.
You are so funny and so right. I mean, I love that. And yet I hate that, right?
I know, right?
That's true, right?
It's like,
I feel like I want to swim through the shit, and then I
Yeah.
forget sometimes I got to backstroke back through it again. It's, the pit of despair, if you will. So
Yeah.
I completely see like this ball pit, right, with these
Mm,
sharks and the
yeah.
alligators that are biting at me. And the big one sometimes for me is this insecurity. And you talk about
Mm,
Andy in here. You talk about Andy, and Andy is the guy that resonated with me most in your book, and the challenges of Andy. Can you talk about
mhm.
Andy and his tattoos and how he got through that? Because I think it was a combination of ambition and insecurity and probably some fear too there.
And
And
persona too.
of
Andy
course,
was stuck.
yes.
Yeah, Andy was
Yeah.
stuck.
So let's talk about Andy.
So what happened was I trained Andy. I had him in a presentation skills series, which was delivered over 3 days over like a 2.5 month period. So we get to know each other a fair bit. And I could see very quickly that Andy came, it was financial services. Andy came in very, buttoned up like everybody did. And Andy had that false front, that persona up big time. He was like the one of the walking, talking robots and all that. And I could see that that's not who he was. I just had this sense that's not who he was. And we ended up having a big discussion about like, Andy, why do you feel this need to put on this false thing, whatever? And he was very, very committed to the idea that you have your personal persona and that you have your professional persona, and never the twain shall meet. And in order to have credibility and in order to succeed, you must keep these two things separate. And it's like antithetical to everything that I believe. And over the 3 workshops, I just kept breaking him down. And I kept asking the people in the workshop to give him feedback about what they wanted to see from him. They were his peers. They were people. And one guy said, Andy, I got to tell you, when you first started working here, I thought you were a bit of an asshole. Like I thought you were really full of shit. And it was only after I really got to know you that I realized that that's not who you are at all. I was like, dude, you see what I'm talking about? This front is not helping you. It is not your friend. You can be who you are and succeed. And then we unearthed a really important fact. I discovered that Andy had come from a really small town. So his background was in a very small community, and he was the only person in his family to leave the small town and to go to university, and now to be in a big corporate, very successful environment. And he was carrying that around like a big burden, right? That who he wasn't good enough. But this avatar that he created, that was the good enough version of Andy. Not true. And so when we broke that down and I said, you realize that this is the story you continue to tell yourself and how self-limiting that is, and so on and so forth. Anyway, cut to the third part of the workshop, and it's the opportunity for everybody's going to get up and take the stage and use all their new skills and tell their stories to the room, and everyone gets a chance to do it. And so Andy gets up on stage, and he's his jacket and his tie and his thing and stuff. And as Andy starts to tell his story, he takes off his jacket. And I thought, okay, what's going on here? I'm not sure what's happening. I think I like it, but I'm not sure. And then Andy loosened the tie and, all the way down. And then he reached down and he unbuttoned one sleeve and he unbuttoned the other sleeve and started to roll the sleeves up. And what Andy revealed was an entire sleeve on both arms of tattoos. And in the years that he had been working at this organization, he had never, ever revealed his arms. Any hot day, long sleeves. Any corporate event, long sleeves. Because that's who Andy really was. And he had been afraid to reveal it. And when he did that, I'm telling you, he brought the house down. There was massive applause. And he said to me after, that was so liberating for me. I really feel like I can start to show people who I am and test to see whether it's being accepted. And it was life-changing for him.
Wow. Wow. So much there resonates with my story, Leslie. I'm not going to veer off and waste everyone's
You're
time
going to
with my
start
story, but
unbuttoning?
my gosh. Yeah, no, I have like 7 chest hairs. That's not enough of anybody. So, and no tattoos, right?
That's all you need is 7. That's all you need.
That's right. That's good. I mean, that's a good start anyway, right? So yeah, but I love that story, and it resonates with me for so many reasons. And yet it is one of those things that I still struggle with. I think a lot of us do. We worry about the swagger, we worry about those blockers, right? We hear the pain, we hear all of that. Even though we hear the success story, we still struggle. So I've got
That's all about
just a
validation though, right, Phil? That's all about validation and
yeah,
whether you're allowing the validation that you do receive to go in or whether you're fighting it as it comes in and ignoring it or whatever, or your ability or inability to self-validate. My analogy for validation is like, when you go to those good yogurt shops, and they have the wall of the yogurt machines and you could like put whatever you want in it. You can have the mixie of the three things. You can put weird flavors together. You can do whatever you want. That to me is self validation. That's what we can do for ourselves. Any combination, any measure, any flavor, anything you want. And then, you go over there to the counter that's got all the other sprinkle shit there, like the gummy bears and the sprinkles and the candies and the cookie crumbs and the fruits and everything that you can load on top of your yogurt. That's external validation. That's like a nice to have. And I'll take it. Hey, if you want to sprinkle stuff on me, I'll take it all day long. But I'm happy to just take my bowl of yogurt and go sit outside and enjoy that because I made that. I don't need anybody's help with that.
That's pretty awesome. That's a really cool analogy. I've not heard that, and I love the yogurt. Right? I usually put boba balls, and I've got pineapple and a lot of sour stuff on there. And yeah,
you know what? And I don't.
Well,
I just go enjoy my yogurt. I don't know.
What's wrong?
Because it's enough. Because it's enough. It's so delicious. It's enough.
There you go. Well, hopefully we all are enough, right? And by that, I mean, hopefully we all realize we are enough. We need enough swagger to get us through, to get us to the next point to point to point, which is really, really beautiful, Leslie.
Yeah. And the book is filled with exercises to help you do that. I don't just talk. That's not my jam. I'm all about practical application. So there are, exercise upon exercise that you can do to get the results. Because I've been doing this with people for like 13 years. It actually works.
Yeah, I was going to say the most beautiful part of the book is not just the stories, but actually that it's a workbook that you can take and you can use to get more swagger in your life. So if folks are going to get started, Leslie, if they were going to get started and say, you know what, I am going to get more swagger, obviously easy enough, they should buy your book. But what else can they do if they want to get started right now today, getting more swagger in their game?
I think the very first step is to start to really figure out who you really are. I meet a lot of people who say, but I'm not really sure. I've sort of lost the plot over years. So what I recommend doing is go and talk to someone who's known you since 10th grade and who knows you today, but has known you since 10th grade. Go and ask them a bunch of questions. Do a little questionnaire, a little survey. Ask them what they've always liked about you. What's the same about you today that it was when you were young? What's the thing that makes you a good friend? Why are you someone that they've stayed friends with all of these years and so on and so forth? Okay, write it down. Then go talk to someone who's known you for maybe 10 years. Could be in a professional capacity, could be a personal, could be a combo platter, ideally, and ask them the same questions. What is it about me that you gravitate to? Why is there value in our friendship? How do you see me? All that kind of stuff. Great. Take your little notes. Now go talk to somebody who you work with, who you haven't known for very long. And in the COVID world, really easy because it's probably somebody who doesn't even know what you look like up close and for real, and ask them the same questions. How do you see me? What do you think? Whatever. And then compare. If there's a huge difference between the people who haven't known you very long and the people who've known you a really long time, it means you have a big swagger gap. That's what I call the big swagger gap. But the truth is that who you really are and the thing that makes you magical and special is more likely through the perception of someone who's known you a really long time. Because like when you go to your high school reunion and you see people that you haven't seen in, 10, 15, 20 years, and you go, wow, like, okay, a little less hair, gained a little weight, a little more gray, a little thing, but kind of who they are is pretty much the same. Like that person was voted the most likely to, take over the world, and now they're doing this thing, or they were the one who was voted, class clown, and now they've managed to work that humor into what they do, and so on and so forth. It's not that we don't know who we are. It's just that we get disconnected from it. And I think that who we really are is who we are when we're under the least scrutiny, when we're our most relaxed, when we're around the people who love us and accept us already, because we're not working so hard. So I think that recognizing that and embracing that and trying to keep that alive in your professional environment, in your work environment, is to get closer to that. That's kind of the goal, right? Also, keep track of how often you don't speak your truth. Literally, create a little logbook. How often did I want to speak my truth? What was the truth I wanted to speak, and why did I not speak it? You may be really shocked to discover how often it's happening. And then once you do it for a couple weeks, whatever, a couple weeks, month, and then try and change it one truth at a time. Okay? For the next 2 weeks, pick one time that you would have not spoken your truth and speak it. See what happens. Because you're going to have to test it in order to prove to yourself that there's a better way to be.
Wow. You are fantastic, my friend. That is so great. Well, folks, if you love Leslie like I do, and you want to get more swagger in your life, you got to go to swaggerthebook.com. Go get your swagger on. It is a workbook, it is a life book, and it is a game changer. Check it out. Get to know my friend Leslie M. And take some action, right? Do something about it. Go get a copy of the book and work through it. Figure out what your truth is and find your swagger. Leslie, as always, dear, you're a treat. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too, Phil.